My name is Josh Wallace, and the title of my paper is Social Constructivism, Web 2.0 Technologies, and Communities of Practice. The topic of my paper is about Web 2.0 technologies creating virtual communities of practice, and how these communities are a modern manifestation of Zagajski's work. Now, Web 2.0 refers to technologies that allow large populations to contribute and create online content. This has been a large change from its predecessor, which was characterized by only a few people being able to participate in the discussions and to contribute. Today's clearest and most prevalent examples of this technology is social media. While social media is mostly used for personal relationships, it's increasingly used to create connect professionally with others. Now, these connections, called communities of practice, have become increasingly how individual teachers are finding leaders in their own fields, duplicating expert practices, and improving their teaching methodology. Through Twitter chats, Facebook groups, and Google Hangouts, among other things, teachers are able to meet others and get better at reaching kids. Now, knowing how to reach students in new ways by connecting with others is a clear example of social constructivism. By working with others, teachers are able to discover best practices. Teaching is a prime example where no one has all the answers. It's only by working together that any real progress is attainable. Now, I was led to this choice and topic because I've had a profound interest in communities of practice in my own life. They have led it to a drastic adjustment in the trajectory of my own teaching. It started with me finding some podcasts, and then I found Twitter, joined several Twitter chats, and finally joined a couple Facebook groups. And through all of this, I found that I was mostly a consumer. I only passively received information. I never really contributed to anything. And then eventually I realized that I needed to start contributing. And so I created a blog and became more active in the Twitter chats and Facebook groups. And I started reflecting on writing about my reflections and what I was learning from all this. And I hope to, in the future, to create a podcast highlighting other talented educators in my local area. And that's what really led me to the topic anyways. Now, let's just talk about the conclusions that I drew here. Now, there's plenty of evidence that communities of practice are really helpful to facilitate learning. There's not any real downsides to such connections except for time, and I'll talk about that in a moment. There are several steps that ensure getting the most out of such learning experiences. Some of the main ideas were to find the right groups. One of the first challenges, of course, is to find the right group and connect with them. Now, it should be someone who can meet you where you're starting at, but also pushing you to improve. At the same time, it's also important to connect through the right media. For instance, if someone's not very familiar or comfortable with Twitter, they're not going to be as willing to contribute and to interact through that media. Time. I mentioned that a second ago. The more consistently someone is involved with their community of practice, the more they will grow. Now, I don't mean by this that they need to spend all day on social media. Obviously, that wouldn't be healthy. But if being able to consistently and reliably be a part of a conversation really helps that conversation move on. Involvement. The literature refers to this as centrality. In other words, it's saying how involved is the individual with the core purpose of the group. Okay, if you're only involved through a tangent of it, if you're not really involved in the main idea of the group's purpose, you're just not going to benefit as much. However, if you jump right in and are part of the center of the conversation and are involved with it, there's a lot more chance for reward there. Now, next there's this give and take. As I mentioned before, you can't just be a consumer, you also need to contribute. And the more that you contribute, both your expertise and just your personality, the more invested you will be with the group, and the more you'll get out of it, and the more other people will get out of it. I thought it was interesting that it wasn't just expertise that was important, that they mentioned it's also a matter of social emotional sharing that's key. And finally, it's important to reflect on the process. As I mentioned with my own writing, it's important to have a space where you can reflect on the group and the group's ideas in your own practice, and to bring it all home and make it real for you in that way. So that's a little bit about my paper. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope it was meaningful to you. Thanks.